Yeah, hello and welcome to another episode of the Spielworxx Chat Season 3. My name is Uli Blennemann and I hope you are all well. And it is my great pleasure to welcome a wonderful guest today, award-winning designer Marco Teubner. Welcome, Marco. How are you?
Hello, Uli. I'm fine, thank you. Nice to be with you and broadcasting the show. I hope we have a few listeners.
Yeah, we will, and this moves to YouTube later as well. So, and in my opinion, it's excellent having you because I haven't seen too many videos with you in the Anglo-American world. So I think this may be a nice change. And if you are having questions or comments, please put them in the chat window, and Marco will surely respond. Before we start, I have one news item, and the Oranienburger Kanal Pledge Manager at GameFound. This is a game by Uwe Rosenberg. Will go live tomorrow at 11 a.m. CET. So very early for you overseas viewers. This is, I think, 5 a.m. Eastern daylight saving time. So 11 a.m. CET, the Pledge Manager will go live, and this lasts surely for a couple of weeks. But to start, Marco, please tell us something about yourself, your background, your hobbies. What are you doing for a living?
Okay, you said my name already. I'm Marco Teubner. I'm 49 years old still. I will have my 50th birthday in September this year. So
Yay!
a new decade to begin. And I live in Bavaria, Germany, and I have 3 kids and a wonderful partner, and she has another 2 kids. So we have a patchwork family together with 5 kids, living in a house, being a game designer all day long. So this is my nowadays in my life.
So,
I
mhm.
yeah.
But no, please go on.
I studied cultural science and art, and I'm also a performance artist. And in this matter, I was able to travel a lot around the globe and took part at many festivals and exhibitions and museums and galleries and that on. And over this turnaround, I come back to the game business or board game business, and I started developing games in 2000, or maybe it was 2001. And since then, I'm an all-day full-time game designer.
Which is a long time, and not too many people have made it becoming a full-time game designer. But this is amazing, and we will get to this in more detail a little bit later. And hello, Chris. Good seeing you to the UK, and hello, Ben. Hello to California, and hello, Board Games for Me. And hello, Daniel. And he's saying, hey, Uli, hey, Marco, long time no see. Well, yeah, it is. And so you already mentioned, did you that you started to develop games, but when did you start to play games? As a kid, so traditionally in Germany, or when did you start playing?
As long as I could think, I think I was playing games. I grew up in a family, and there were a lot of games in the family. I know my grandparents sitting at the table playing cards. I know that my parents invited friends to have a board game evening. And the first really important step into board gaming, it wasn't right board gaming, it was the time in the 80s and 90s. We played a lot of pen and paper role playing games. We call it the Schwarze Auge. Is
Yeah.
it called in English the black eye? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I know that there is an English edition, but I think it has a different name, but I don't know it. But yeah, in Germany, as you said, this is a very, or was a, and still is a pretty popular role playing
Yeah.
system.
So, and this was the first big part of playing games, sitting at a table with friends. And from this on, we went more to the tabletop games. And then there was another time when I made a lot of sports and I started at university, and so I lost it a little bit. And then I start traveling around, and by traveling around the world, the globe, I recognized that the people all over the globe play games, and they play differently. So that was for me very interesting to recognize. And then I made the decision to write my thesis for the university about playing games globally, and it was the re-entering in the board game.
Most interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And hello, Steve. Also, hello to California, and hello, Hans. Good seeing you. Yeah, although personally I'm a very bad traveler. I love to be at home, but I always like to hear stories of people who traveled a lot and why did they do it, and where did they spend their time abroad. So which countries did you see, Marco?
I'm really thankful for the opportunities that I have, so many chances to travel as a performance artist. I'm part of an international performance art group called the Black Market International. And we got invited in many different countries. So, for example, we were from Canada, Toronto to Mexico, or to the Philippines, China, Japan.
Wow.
Quite more or less the whole globe. So, and it was another setting because it's the setting of art and performance art. It was not the setting of playing games or playing at the table. But when I looked in detail, deeply, I recognized that there are so many similarities between art and board game design, making performance art and board game design. So for me, it was more or less the same.
Interesting. But when you said I visited the Philippines or China, did this mean you spent a few days over there, or was it for a longer period of time?
It was for a longer period. So we got these artist in residence programs. So where you'll be able to stay at a home for about 6 to 8 weeks sometimes. And we got in contact to the local people and get invited and really getting to know the culture of the country you visited. So that was really interesting, the differences in the cultural aspects. For example, when we were in China, I walked along a park and there was a tea house, and I went in the tea house and I saw the people playing xiangqi. That's the Chinese variant of chess. And it was very loud because there were two people playing. They were mainly sitting still, but there was a crowd around them, all the advisor, and everybody is talking to them and giving them advices what to do. And when you compare this to the European way of playing chess, it is really quiet, two people sitting in front of each other, nearly no movement, just one tick, tick. And in China, it was really the opposite of it. It was so full of action and movement and the people and shouting and discussing, and that was one key moment for me to recognize that well, more or less we play the same game, but it's a totally different experience. Yeah.
Yeah, most interesting. I always find this fascinating. We are on one globe, but so many different cultures and so many different traditions. And before I get back to this, I'd like to ask you. A lot of people, of course, play games, but very few people think about designing a game, becoming a game author. What made you make this step, Marco? So when did you decide? I'd like to do my own game.
I think it was something in with the working for the thesis for the university. I had these ideas that if there are so many games, there must be some people behind the games who develop them. And I just wanted to know does it feel like developing a game? I can remember that my big brother, when we were children, he always called me the professor. And the reason was, in these early times, I already loved to develop or research things and stuff. So I think there's something in me that was good for the way to develop games. But I started developing games when I wrote my thesis for the university. And I said, okay, let's try. If there are game authors behind the game, that couldn't be that hard. So, but my first try was so awful. It was so, I nearly make every mistake you could make developing a game. But that was the first time, yeah, in 2001.
2001, so more than 20 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and getting back to your traveling and cultural learning about different cultures, as a designer or as a game author, did these different cultures have a large impact on your work? Or are you saying, well, I saw these different traditions, but I'm having my own way? How do you see this, Marco?
Well, I think I could not step out of my own cultural background.
Yeah.
So the reason, mainly, I think we are educated and grew up in our cultural environment. And this is our main input of the developing process. But having the chance and the possibilities to travel and see so many different cultures, I think that makes you open-minded. So I think when I develop games, I don't have a certain mind in my head, so I don't say it must work like this or it should work like this. So I'm more trying to overview the situation and try to get the emotions between the players. I think this is, we are mainly asked if we are storytellers or if we are mechanically developing games. And for myself, I would say I'm not the one and not the other one. It's more the I try to find an emotional impact or looking at the players and try to feel their emotions when they play the games or my prototypes.
Yeah, interesting. And Daniel is saying can't go wrong with Ereigniskarten, which means event cards. So, are you using event cards often, or is this something you're using? No.
I have a few friends who are also developing games, and we all have our specialties.
Yeah.
And some of them say that I'd like to make these extra event cards or something.
Okay, so
maybe there's something behind it that
So
I often use these kind of things. Yeah.
So that was inside knowledge then that we got, and I'm thankful for this, Daniel. So, yes, and staying for a few seconds at the topic of event cards, of course, they can script a game or move a game into certain directions. They are very useful in doing this. It gets tedious when the game is just event cards, and you're playing the cards, and they not only influence the game but drive the game. So more than even scripting. But yeah. Anyway,
but we have the nowadays we have a lot of games, and the part of the storytelling gets more and more important. And I think event cards really unterstützen, support these kind of games with the storytelling.
Absolutely. And in my opinion, yes, they support storytelling. They can also move players into certain directions. So, like a framework, very useful. What I've seen lately a lot is too many cards in some games, so that the game, almost the whole experience, is cards. And this is, but I think everybody has a certain or has a different sweet spot for this. So some like it more, some like it less. And Marco, in Germany we have quite a few players who do not like random factors at all, and they think, which is not true, that event cards are random factors. And yeah, well, but this is a topic for a different discussion, in my opinion. But I did my research today, and I was not really surprised, but I thought, wow, you already have 71, so 71 published games so far. Can you tell us which games you like most, or maybe which genres you like most? You hinted on storytelling games, but please let us know.
That's very interesting because I did not count my own published games. That's always interesting. I could not say if it's 7.1 or 7.2 or whatever, but it's something around between 70 and 80, something like that. Yeah. I started developing mainly children's game when I started in 2001. The reason, therefore, is I think part of my own situation, having so many kids around me, and my wife these days were working in the kindergarten, and I studied also pedagogic, educational.
Yeah, educational work.
Yeah. So this may be the reasons why I first started developing kids games, and I was very pleased with this because I'd like to develop these kinds of games. I like to test with kids. They are so ehrlich.
They always tell the truth. They are very truthful in what they are doing.
So
Yeah.
if they don't like the game, they say it straight out.
Yeah, they
They
don't
leave the
cheat.
table. Yeah. They will leave the table, and so it was really it's a good way to have a developing process. And I got mainly successful with my kids games. I have many recognitions by the Spiel des Jahres jury. I got I think it was 4 nominations, and one times I won the Spiel des Jahres for Kinderspiel des Jahres. So, and then you got in this box for the publisher. So we are looking for a kids game. Oh, let's call Marco. So that was the main reason you get in this and developing kids games, and that was great and that's good. And I think we made the first not kid game together. You can remember Sutter Smith?
Yes, of course, 2008, and everybody who has not tried Sutter Smith should do so. So it's severely underrated. It's underrated. Yeah, we did the game for Phalanx. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's getting more and more that other parts of the gaming industry ask for games, and I was able to develop, or I was in the group of the developer for the Tip Toy. It's the big pen for Ravensburger, and that got really successful. And this gives me a lot of opportunities to work on different projects. And then I had the chance to work for Sebastian Fitzek. And all these games are more on the family side of gaming, or adult gaming, board games. So I left the kids games for a while, but I never left it in the hole. So last year we got these Dodo. You know Dodo?
Nope.
We made this, and this won the Deutsche Kinderspielepreis.
Wow, interesting. Yeah.
So I would say I got from a kids game designer to a full game designer. So now I work on every side. So I make kid games and adult games and logic puzzles also maybe. Yeah.
Well, but which games give you the most satisfaction? Can you say so, or is it that the whole variety is great for your creative life?
I would say I mostly like to develop games for children. I like the fact that you have to reduce yourself because of the limitations of the kids. So It's so easy when you're developing something, if it does not work, to change it by adding something. But when you make children's games, you really have to go the other way around. You have to find another solution, or you have to shrink it down, or to make it simplify it, something like that. And that's a process I'd really like, to make something as clean or as polished or as simple as possible. Yeah,
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And can you name one or two or three of your favorite games, or is it too difficult?
no, it's one, and I think the board gamers in the States will know it the best from my games, because it's the game that's got mostly published in or sold in the US. Is called Carcassonne Junior. And well, Carcassonne is a simple game. It's really simple. Take a tile,
You place a tile, yeah.
put a pawn on it. That's all. But what do you have to do to make it much simpler, to fit it as a kids game, for example? And that was really an exciting project to find the sweet spot. What do you have to do for Carcassonne to make it even simpler, a simple game even simpler, so that the kids like it? And I think this is one of my favorite kids games I developed.
Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine, although I'm definitely not creative enough to be an author, that this is difficult, having a pretty simple game that has a very clear structure and make it even simpler. Yeah, interesting. Although I'm shocked that you didn't mention Sutter's Mill as your favorite all-around game, so Marco. So I'm disappointed. But staying with kids games, with children games, as you already mentioned, you won the Kinderspiel des Jahres once in 2016 with the English title is My First Stone Age. So, and of course, everybody here knows that this award is huge. So this has a huge effect. Did it change your life? Did it make your life easier? More publishers are looking towards you, or did it change nothing for you, Marco?
Yes, it changed a lot. First, it changed the moment was I won the prize, and before I always said, okay, I will develop games until I win this prize. And then I got it, and they asked me on the stage, so now that you've got the prize, will you stop developing games? And I was really, oh well. And a good friend of mine said once, developing games is like a virus. When you once get it, you can't stop it anymore. So that's really what happens. So there was no chance to stop developing games. First, it's so much fun developing games. Then it's so great to see people playing your games. Then it's so great to recognize that you can make your living out of what you are really loving to do. So that's a fantastic situation. So of course I will go on developing games.
And I'm really grateful that you decided to not retire from game design. So I'm really grateful.
And of course, it's when you start, or when you try to make your living out of developing board games, a lot of us know that it's not easy, even in these times. So that the market is getting more and more splitted, and the Auflagenhöhen,
the print runs
the print runs are getting lower, I guess. So
Yeah.
that's what I recognize. And so it's really hard for us, the developer, to have a game on the market and making profit out of it. Because there are so many games, and you have it in the 1 year, maybe in the second year, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to have a game more than a few years on the market and having good sales out there. So that's getting harder and harder. And therefore, it's really a big thing that you will win a prize like the Spiel des Jahres. Then you got so much more income from the sale.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like it that you won the prize. So very, very good. as you said, it can be a life or a game changer, and no pun intended here. But you already mentioned Sebastian Fitzek. So for non-German language readers, I'm not sure, probably he is published in other languages, but here in Germany, Sebastian Fitzek is selling a ton of books. He's really one of the few best-selling authors in the last couple of years. So, and you had the pleasure to design a couple of games or several ones based on his work. Is this correct? Or so and here and hello Blue Dane, good seeing you. But I will post a link to one of the games. So that's a BGG link here, so you can follow. This is Killer Cruise. But what did this mean? You have a famous author. You are the game designer, and he's an author. He's not a hardcore gamer, I assume. How do you work? Do you work with him? Do you work with the agency? Do you work just with the publisher doing the game? In Germany, this is Moses. So how do you do this?
Okay, so it's more or less that both of us are talking, so I can talk a little bit from the stories behind.
Of course, of course.
Sebastian Fitzek is the best-selling crime story author in Germany. And I don't know if it's international, that I can't say, but it's in the German language, so in Europe, that's really the big name, Sebastian Fitzek. And I got in contact when my publisher called me and said, we got the chance to make a game with Sebastian Fitzek. Mm-hmm. Are you interested? I said, of course, I'm interested. Yeah, let's make something. Let's go. And then they said, yeah, we have a game. And I said, so why do you need me then for a game designer? And he said, well, he's not a game designer. He's a good writer, but maybe we need somebody to look over the ideas of Sebastian Fitzek and polish it a little bit and making a good game out of it. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, okay. Well, the publisher is one of my really long partners, so I said, yeah, okay, let's do that. I will have a look on it. And then they showed me the prototypes, and we discussed, and we then came to the conclusion that, well, it is a game, but it's not a game up to date. It's more or less a game that you would develop when you start developing games. So you have it's a really from the start-finish game, having here these cards with the task cards, something like that. So we made the decision that we start over again. That, okay, let's start over again. And we have a meeting with Sebastian and the agency. And then we had the meeting, and we were sitting there. And Sebastian, at this time, thought we will make his games. And he's trying to explain his game and how we should make it, and everything is going on. And we are looking at each other. And then we recognized, oh, wait. Nobody told him that we did not make his game.
Redo the game.
Redo the game. And then the meeting was nearly over, and Sebastian still thought that we will make this game. And then I had to take the word and had said, Mr. Fitzek, I'm really sorry for this misunderstanding, but I thought we have these Meinung, the opinion that we should redo the work. Totally silence in the room. So everybody was looking at each other. I was not sure what I have done. And in the moment, he looked at me and said, you are right. I'm a good writer, but I'm an awful game designer. Yeah. And you hear the stones falling from everybody. Yeah, you are right. That was the time when he brought some of his books to the movies, and the storybook writers told him nearly the same. And he said, I love when people have the courage to tell me where are my limitations. So where's my abilities, and where are my limitations? And he liked the idea that we really start over again. So that was the beginning of this cooperation work with him. And we had some calls and we had some meetings, and we really started from the scratch and did the first work together. That worked wonderfully, and the agency didn't influence us, so we were really free in developing it. And this first game got successful, so we said that's a good way to work together. And but I did not make a game out of the books. We are more decide that we take the way he writes his books, so his
style, his personal style,
and try to bring this style into board games. So.
Yeah, but interesting. What I really like hearing from you, that when somebody knows their limitations. So this I can do. I'm an excellent writer, but game design is something else. I know my limitations. Let somebody else doing this. Sometimes the ego is in the way, but here it seems that everything is fine, which is great.
And that's great. This is a good start for a good partnership, because then you have a good eye-to-eye contact. So
yeah, it's the same.
I know
excuse me.
He brings a good story. I try to bring the best I can do, and so therefore we can make the best out of it. I think that's a better result than just looking over something that somebody is trying to make, and I'm not sure what of myself should I put in this game, or maybe I should stay back and let him do it, or something like that. So that was really a good way when you work with somebody that big in another field, writing and books, and then come together. That was great, and that is still great because we are still working on together.
Yeah, and it tells you also if it's an ongoing relationship. And hello, Matze, good seeing you. Matze, you're late. So, but as we are here alone, talking a little bit, can you tell us something about, if it's not a secret, about print run levels? So a game with Sebastian Fitzek, how many copies does it approximately sell?
I would say, as a game designer, when I'm developing a good game, maybe a kid's game, I'm happy when I sell 10, 15,000 a year. That's really a good amount of copies.
And it's a nice number.
It's a nice number, yeah. When you do something with a book author of this quality, we have a lot more. So let's compare it to the Spiel des Jahres. Spiel des Jahres, you make something about, I would say, 100,000, 200,000 copies. And we nearly got to this number when we do the work with Sebastian Fitzek. He sold millions of his books. So that's really amazing how many books he sells.
Yeah, but this is wonderful, and you see how important an IP can be, and a name, and it doesn't have to be comic books or superheroes. It can be, in your market here in German language, it can be a crime book author. So if the games are well done, if it's just rubbish, then they may buy it once and then it's dead. So yeah. Very interesting.
Well, Sebastian is a great entertainer. So he's great in social media and networking, and I think that's also a reason he has a big amount of followership, followers. So yeah, but they are not usually into board games. So when we decided to make a game, we have to decide: do we make it for the board gamers, or do we make it for the readers of the Sebastian Fitzek books? So that was not easy to find the sweet spot in between these two.
Yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, but excellent, Marco. Which games from you can we expect in the near future? If you can let us know. Is there anything you can already mention? Is there a game for Essen for early next year? What are you doing?
I like to make, in the last few months, years, I love to make deck building games. And therefore, I did one for Schmidt-Spiele for Universal, Jurassic World. And then I had this idea that it's and should be interesting to make a deck building game for really small kids. And I did one, and I showed it to Blue Orange, and they will bring it in this fall to Essen.
Wow, wonderful.
So this will be a game, my first deck builder. We call it my first deck builder in the subtitle. This will come, and of course we will go on making the Sebastian Fitzek games. And I have another idea of a big storytelling game that I can't talk right now about, but it will come. I think it took some years, 2 or 3 years. And I really like to work on these big licenses. So therefore, I have a big license for kids. This is a big story license. So, and I'm working on that, but I could not tell anymore. But I think this will be a big kids game again. So I'm working on a big, hopeful, powerful kids game.
Yeah, hopefully. But just as you, I love deck builders myself as well, because they have so much variety. You can do so much, and I'm interested in what you're doing with your first deck builder. So how much you can shrink this and still make it interesting for kids to play. Very interesting.
That's not that easy, because when you make a game for kids, the kids have the action and reaction must follow immediately. So when you make a deck builder, you separate the action and the reaction. So how can you teach the kids that they should take this card because in the upcoming turns they need it for their deck?
Yeah, and
that was really the challenging.
Yeah, very interesting design ideas here. Yeah, and often in deck builders you put your card in discard, so you don't see it for a long time, so it's not directly going in your hands in a lot of them. So yeah, very interesting.
You can't force kids to shuffle cards all the time. That's another problem. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I would never think about this, but you're right.
No, the aim was kids of the age of 4. So let's try to make a deck builder for kids of the age of 4 years old.
What a challenge! What a challenge! Very, very interesting.
Hopefully we did it.
Yeah, I'm sure with your designer qualities it will be wonderful, Marco. And speaking of wonderful, this was a wonderful talk today, Marco. So really interesting. And I'm really grateful that you took the time to talk to me today. And of course, thank you to all viewers, to all listeners here. The next Spielworxx chat is in 2 weeks on August 16, also likely with a guest. But before we completely close it, if people would like to reach you, Marco, how can they do so?
I would say the easiest way for the board gamers will be to write a mail via BGG.
Yeah, okay. So
I'm on BGG and I will see my mails on BGG. So if you will contact me there, it's the easiest way. Other, you will find me on Facebook. So there, you can reach me.
Okay, so BGG or Facebook, and Hans is already saying thank you, Marco. So, and to everyone, thank you for your time. If you would like to see a special topic discussed in the Spielworxx chat, or have a specific question that you'd like to ask in advance, drop me a mail at uli@spielworxx.de. That is uli@spielworxx.de. Until August 16, bleibt alle gesund, support the Ukraine, and bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.